HOA Karen Trampled War Heroes Medal, fined $20,000. The air in Willow Creek buzzed with whispers, sharp and jagged like broken glass. Karen Mitchell, the HOA president with a perm as tight as her grip on the neighborhood, had done it again. This time, she'd crossed a line no one could ignore. It started innocently enough, or so it seemed. I'm Jake Larson, a mechanic who'd moved to this quiet suburb for a fresh start after years of city grit. Willow Creek was supposed to be peaceful, with its manicured lawns and picket fences, but Karen ruled it like a dictator in pastel capris. Her clipboard was her scepter, her bi-weekly newsletters the law. No mailbox was too shiny, no hedge too tall for her to nitpick. Last month, she'd fined Mrs. Delgado $200 for a non-compliant birdhouse. The month before, she'd called the cops on a kid for skateboarding on his own driveway. Everyone grumbled, but no one fought back. Until that crisp October morning, I was tinkering in my garage when I heard the shouting. It wasn't the usual neighborhood hum kids playing, dogs barking. This was raw, angry, like a storm breaking. I wiped the grease off my hands and jogged toward the park at the end of the street. A crowd had gathered, maybe 30 people, their faces a mix of shock and fury. At the center stood Karen, her arms crossed, chin jutted out like she was daring the world to challenge her. In front of her was Tom Hargrove, a Vietnam vet in his late 60s, his wheelchair parked on the grass. His face was pale, but his eyes burned with a fire I'd never seen in the quiet man who waved to me every morning. You had no right, Tom's voice cracked, not from weakness, but from rage. He pointed to the ground, where a small, tarnished medal lay in the dirt, its ribbon frayed and smeared with mud. I recognized it instantly, a Purple Heart, the kind you don't just get. You earn it through blood and sacrifice. The crowd murmured, and I caught snippets. She stepped on it, on purpose. Right in front of him. Karen scoffed, her voice dripping with condescension. It's just a piece of metal. Tom, you were blocking the walkway, and I told you to move. Maybe if you didn't leave your trash lying around, this wouldn't have happened. The crowd gasped. I felt my fists clench. Trash. That metal was Tom's pride, his proof of surviving hell in a jungle half a world away. I'd heard his stories over beers at the VFW hall, how he dragged 2 wounded buddies to safety under fire, taking shrapnel in his legs. Those legs didn't work anymore, but his spirit did, and Karen had just spat on it. I pushed through the crowd, trying to piece it together. Apparently, Tom had been at the park for a small veterans memorial event, one he'd organized himself. He'd set up a display with his medals and photos, a quiet tribute to his fallen friends. Karen, on her usual patrol, had stormed over, claiming the display violated HOA rules, no unsanctioned structures allowed. When Tom refused to dismantle it, she'd kicked over the table, sending his medals flying. Then, in front of everyone, she'd ground her sneaker into his Purple Heart, sneering. This isn't a museum. The tension in the park was a live wire. A woman I didn't know later, I learned her name was Maria. A nurse who'd moved in last spring stepped forward, her voice shaking but loud. You're disgusting. Karen, that man's a hero, and you're out here playing dictator over a medal. The crowd roared in agreement, but Karen doubled down. I keep this neighborhood clean and orderly, she snapped. If you don't like it, move to a slum. She turned to Tom. And you don't think your sob story gives you special privileges. That's when the twist came. Unexpected and sharp. A teenage boy, no older than 16, pushed through the crowd. He was skinny, with a mop of dark hair and a phone in his hand. I got it all on video, he said, holding up the screen. It was Ethan, Maria's son, who'd been filming the memorial for a school project. The footage was crystal clear. Karen's tantrum, the table crashing, her deliberate stomp on the metal. The crowd erupted, shouting for justice. Ethan's video was the spark, and the park was dry tinder. Karen's face drained of color as Ethan played the clip on loop. You could see her sneaker twist on the metal, hear her venomous words. This is going viral, Ethan said. his voice steady despite his age. The world's gonna see what you did. The days that followed were chaos. Ethan uploaded the video to X, and it spread like wildfire, thousands of shares, then tens of thousands. The hashtag #Nashagra Justice for Tom trended locally, then nationally. People posted stories of their own run-ins with HOA tyrants. But Karen's act was on another level. News outlets picked it up, and soon, reporters were knocking on Tom's door. He didn't want the attention, but he spoke anyway, his voice steady as he described what that medal meant, his best friend dying in his arms, the shrapnel that stole his ability to walk, the years of nightmares. It's not about the medal, he said. It's about what it stands for. Karen, meanwhile, tried to spin it. She posted a half-hearted apology on the HOA's website, claiming it was an accident and she respected all veterans. No one bought it. The video was too damning, her smirk too clear. The neighborhood organized, led by Maria and Ethan, who turned out to be a tech whiz. They started a petition to remove Karen as HOA president, gathering signatures faster than anyone expected. But the real blow came when Tom's daughter, a lawyer named Rachel, got involved. She filed a lawsuit against Karen for emotional distress and property damage, citing the desecration of a military honor. The courtroom was packed. I sat in the back, watching as Rachel laid out the case with surgical precision. She showed the video, pausing on Karen's sneer. She called witnesses me, Maria, even Ethan, who stood tall despite his nerves. Karen's defense was flimsy. She claimed she didn't know the medal's significance, but the judge wasn't having it. Ignorance is no excuse for malice, he said, his voice like gravel. The gavel came down $20,000 in fines and damages, payable to Tom. The crowd outside cheered as Karen stormed out, her face a mask of fury and humiliation. But it wasn't over. The HOA board, under pressure from the petition and public outrage, voted unanimously to remove Karen. Her reign was done. Tom, ever humble, used the fine money to fund a scholarship for veterans' kids. He didn't want revenge, just healing. The park got a new bench, engraved with a simple message, honor those who serve. The broken medal was restored, polished, and placed in a case at the community center, a quiet reminder of what matters. Karen moved away a month later. Her house sold quietly. No one missed her. The neighborhood felt lighter, like a storm had passed. I saw Tom at the park one evening, watching kids play where his memorial had stood. Worth it, I asked. He smiled. Just a little. Wasn't about me. Jake, it was about respect. What do you think was justice served? Or should Karen have faced more? Share your thoughts. Let's talk about what's right and wrong here.